You may have heard this. He takes his daughter Revati and they go to Brahmaloka. During Satya Yuga, they go to Brahmaloka. At that time, this time travel, space travel was possible. So when they go there, Lord Brahma immediately could not ask Kakutni, why did you come here? So he was waiting because Lord Brahma was actually watching the dance of Gandharvas. And after the dance is over, he asked, okay, Kakutni, why did you come here? How can I help you? And then he said, I want a match for my daughter Revati. So I came to you with some possible boys. Can you please let me know who should Revati marry? And he started, Lord Brahma started laughing loudly, not just smiling. Laughing loudly. And then Kakutni asked, why are you laughing, Lord Brahma? He said, from the time you came, 116 million years have passed. That you came, you left during Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga is gone. Treta Yuga is over. Dwapara Yuga has started. Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram have already come to perform their earthly pastime. So already 116 million years have passed by. And what does that equate to? Lord Brahma's time? 19 minutes and 44 seconds. But it is 116 million years, earthly years. And he says it's already too late. Now go get Revati married to Lord Balaram. So this is another example. It's validated throughout the Vedic literature that Lord Brahma's age is 311 trillion and 40 billion years. And how do we comprehend this? So Srila Prabhupada explains this in a wonderful story. Have you heard this Dr. Frog story? You may have heard this. One frog has been living in a well. That well is the world, is the universe, is the house, is the swimming pool, is the restaurant. Everything is that well for this frog. This frog has never left this well at all. His food is taken care, family, everybody is there. One day, a frog from Pacific Ocean, this frog has seen the Pacific Ocean. This frog came in and jumped into this well. And this frog who always lives in this well asked this frog who jumped in from Pacific Ocean, how big is this Pacific Ocean? So this frog has never seen anything other than the water in the well. So this frog is asking this new frog, how big is this Pacific Ocean? So this frog from Pacific Ocean says, it's huge. Then this frog says, what do you mean huge? Can it be bigger than my well? He says, yeah, very big. Is it twice the size of my well? That frog it's unbelievable. I can't even tell you how big is this Pacific Ocean. No way. Maximum I can think is 2 or 3 times bigger than what I can think what my well is. It can't be beyond what I can think of. Because this frog does not know anything other than what is there in that well. So, Srila Prabhupada explains from our limited perception, we may not know anything beyond human beings living for about 100 years, 80 years to 100 years maximum somebody can live. How can somebody live for 311 trillion and 40 billion years? So now, to understand this, let's look at it from a different perspective. Now, scientifically it's proved that there is a fly called mayfly. You may have heard this fly, this mayfly, it's a type of fly. That fly lives only for half an hour. That's it. It's not a premature death. The life cycle of this mayfly is only 30 minutes. It's born, it's got children, it eats, it sleeps, it does everything that it needs to do, and in 30 minutes it's dead. And it's not extinct. This mayfly is not extinct by any stretch of imagination. Even today there are many thousands and millions of mayflies, but they are born and dead in 30 minutes. Now, when you think of Lord Brahma as a human being and when we compare ourselves to Lord Brahma, it may not be possible for us to comprehend that he can live for 311 trillion and 40 billion years. But when you think in terms of him being a living entity, so we should always think that Lord Brahma is a living entity, mayfly is a living entity, human being is a living entity, then we may be able to comprehend that to an extent because we are able to see the other living entities in the earth itself, which is also proved by our scientists. So scientists have proved that this mayfly lives only for 30 minutes, which is 0.5 of an hour. And human being, average, let's say 80 years we can live. When you calculate this 80 years into hours, it comes to over 500,000 hours. So human beings on an average, if we say 80 years, we live for about 500,000 hours. Now try going and telling this mayfly there is a living entity who lives for 500,000 hours. We are like Brahma to this mayfly. So this mayfly will not believe that. How can it be? I've seen my father, my grandfather, all my relatives live for only 0.5 of an hour. How can somebody live for 500,000 hours? Now there is also another living entity by the name of sequoia tree. Now the sequoia tree lives for 3,000 years. So that's not mentioned in the Vedic literature. That's confirmed by our scientists that these sequoia trees, which are found in the Yosemite National Park and Sequoia National Park in California area, they live for 3,000 years. Now, I don't know how to convert that into hours. It might take so many zeros. Now, just tell this mayfly there is another living entity who lives for 3,000 years and convert that into hours. It cannot believe that. So when we try to widen our vision and try to understand in terms of living entities, not in terms of human being, because Lord Brahma by no stretch of imagination is not a human being. He is a living entity, and when we can see in one end of the spectrum, we have this mayfly that lives for half an hour, and then we have human being who lives for more than 500,000 hours, and then we have the sequoia tree which lives for 3,000 years. Yes, there could be somebody at the other end of the spectrum that can live for 311 trillion and 40 billion years. And you can also, then another common doubt could be, well, I hear Hanuman was trying to, he lifted this big mountain. How can somebody lift a big mountain and go across the ocean from India to Sri Lanka to save the life of Lord Lakshman? How can it be possible? I can't even carry this, one book box, during this month of December for a long period of time. How can somebody lift this, huge mountain? Now again, let's broaden our senses and try to understand. So let's not look from this, how we were looking. Now an ant. Have you ever seen an ant? Ant is a living entity. Again, we are talking in terms of living entity, not in terms of human being. Because Hanuman is not a human being. He is another living entity with extraordinary powers, extraordinary personality. So, anybody seen an ant carry a book on its head and walking? Has anybody seen that? I have not seen that. An ant cannot even lift a small feather or a small piece of paper and cannot go. Ant is a living entity in one end of the spectrum. All of us, each one of us can lift up to 100 pounds without any difficulty. I can lift this, up to 100 pounds we can lift it without any difficulty. So we are in, right side of the spectrum. Ant is in one end, we are say in the middle, if I can use that. And if you can extend this, there is a great person by the name of Hussein. He is from Iran and is an Olympic champion. He can very easily lift 580 pounds. 580 pounds he can lift it. Now try telling an ant that there is a living entity who can lift 580 pounds when this ant cannot lift this feather or a piece of paper. So when you extend that, can it not be possible for some other living entity which we don't know, that we absolutely read from the scriptures, who can actually carry a mountain very easily? Then we may ask, one other common question that a new devotee may ask is, I've read from the scriptures, Putana, when she died, we read from the 10th canto, Putana, when she died, she was 12 miles long. And her brother, Bakasura, was like a big mountain in the form of a duck. And then the youngest brother, Akasura, was 8 miles long. How can I comprehend this? How can somebody be that tall? Again, think of a fly or an ant standing in front of us. When we are standing up, an ant or a fly is actually sitting in front of us and lifting his head like this. Just imagine what the ant will think. Compared to the ant's height to our height, and just imagine an ant standing in front of a NFL football player or a basketball player. How tall is this person? Again, we talk about living entities. Ant is a living entity, fly is a living entity, this NBA basketball player, 7-foot basketball player is also a living entity. So when you think in terms of that, Why can't there be living entities that are much taller than a basketball player? So when we expand our vision, then things may just get more clear. And another question that somebody may have is, I've heard that in sun planet, there are living entities. How can that be? Sun planet, because Prabhupada teaches us again and again there is a sun god, Vivaswan. We are reading the 40th verse now. In the very first verse of this 4th chapter, Lord Krishna explains how he taught the science of imperishable knowledge, this Bhagavad Gita, to sun god Vivaswan, and how Vivaswan passed it along to Vaivasvata Manu, and how Vaivasvata Manu passed it along to Ikshvaku. So this Bhagavad Gita was not spoken 5,000 years ago, but 120 million years ago to sun god, and about 2 million years ago it came to humanity in the form of Manu explaining it to Ikshvaku. Now we may be thinking, how can there be a living entity? Now when we say a sun god, so he's the king of the sun planet. Can there be a king without anybody to rule? Can there be a president of a country with no people to rule? There are people in the room. That's why in the country. That's why you have a president ruling over everybody. So when we say there is king of the sun planet is sun god Vivaswan, that means there are other people living in the sun planet. Is that fair to say? How can anybody live in the sun planet? Is that a fair question? It's so hard. First of all, it's too far away, 93 million miles away. Now to put that in perspective, when the aircrafts hit the Twin Towers, the steel pillars that were there melted when the temperature was 1500 degrees Celsius. The steel pillars, if you think of this as a steel pillar, just imagine that melted when the temperature was 15 to 1600 degrees Celsius. Now in the core of the sun, the temperature is 16 million degrees Celsius. So how can anybody live there? It may be a fair question for somebody who is new to God consciousness, if they're trying to understand with their senses, which is limited as we were able to show. Now, if a fish is living inside the water, can we live inside the water? The fish is able to live inside the water because it's got the body that can be adaptable to living inside the water. The fish cannot live outside on the land like we can. So our body is capable of living on land without water. The fish is capable of living inside the water. So when you have the bodily structure that is protected for you to live in that environment. The fish has got fins and so on and so forth, so it can live inside the water. Therefore, if our body is capable of living in different condition, then we can live there. What about birds? Birds can fly, we cannot fly. Bird is capable, the bodily structure is capable of that so that it can fly. How many of you have seen the earthworm? So we may see the earthworm when we are trying to plant a rose plant at the beginning of summer month. About 1 foot below the ground when we dig, there are earthworms there. Can you believe that? So dark, so damp, so cold, you can't see anything, and it's pretty opaque. You cannot just when you try to dig a hole, you see how difficult it is? Now this earthworm nicely goes through the earth, 1 foot below the earth. It knows where his wife is. It clearly knows where the home is. It knows where the food is. It knows everything. The earthworm knows everything, but we can't understand how it's capable of living 1 foot below, that is so dark, damp, nothing is there. So it's capable of living in that environment. Bodily structure is capable. Like that, people or great devotees are capable of living in that environment in sun planet, even though the temperature is 16 million degrees Celsius. We can comprehend this a little bit more when you look at the firefighters. Now the firefighters, you have seen the personal protective equipment clothing that they wear. It's made of Nomex or Kevlar, and it's also got this moisture barriers. For those of you who know firefighters and what material they wear, Nomex or Kevlar, and it's got moisture barriers. Now with that, they can go out to a burning house even up to 1000 degrees Celsius, and they can stay there for 18 seconds. And now they're increasing this, they're making it much better and better so that they can stand inside the burning house for a longer period of time. So if we have proper equipment, or we are equipped to go into the fire. So even the firefighters can go. For us, plus 45 degrees in the sun, we can't even stand there. Right? We come inside where there is air condition. But here, firefighters who are living entities, who are even human beings, they are able to go as long as they have the capability to withstand that environment. So, and also there are many examples. I'm taking only some of the common questions that some of the devotees may have had in the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness, and we are trying to understand that by broadening our own vision, even though these are revealed scriptures, we are trying to understand this from the perspective of not looking at it from a human being, but looking at it as living entities. Then we are able to understand this much better. And then Lord Brahma being born from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Really? How can somebody be born from the navel of anybody? And we heard the name Ikshvaku. Now Ikshvaku, how was he born? He was born from the sneezing. His father sneezed and he was born. This is according to the Vedic literature. And then we also hear from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Varahadev, White Varahadev, there are two Varahadevs. White Varahadev, how did he appear? He appeared from the nose of Lord Brahma. So these are, oh really, I can't really comprehend that. I have this doubt. Again, referring back to the verse that we are reading, which is the 40th verse of this 4th chapter. Agnyashasrata danascha samshayatma vinasyati nayam lokostina paro na sukam samshayatmana. For a doubting soul, there is no happiness in this world nor in the next. So we may have had this doubt, but we are trying to clarify that so that we don't have this doubt. So here, and also from the third canto, we read some extraordinary ways that extraordinary personalities have come. We heard about Lord Brahma himself coming from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Ikshvaku coming from the sneezing of Swayambhu Manu. And also there are many extraordinary appearances. Marichi appeared from the mind of Lord Brahma. Narada Muni appeared from the contemplation of Lord Brahma. Then we have Kardama Muni appearing from the shadow of Lord Brahma. Then we have Rudra, Lord Shiva, appearing from between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma in the form of blue and red color. Atri Muni appeared from the eyes of Lord Brahma. Pulatsya Muni appeared from the ears. And Bhrigu Muni appeared from the touch. And Kritu Muni appeared from the thumb of Lord Brahma. So on and so forth. Extraordinary ways. So we may have this, how is this possible? Again, think in terms of living entities. Now from Padma Puran, we get to know there are 8.4 million species of life, aquatics, plants, insects, then we have birds, then we have animals, and then we have 400,000 types of human beings. Now all these 8.4 million species come from only 4 sources. We know this, but we take this for granted. It's extraordinary ways that living entities already appear. Living entities appear from embryo. When you think about it, it's extraordinary way. If you think only somebody appearing from sneezing is extraordinary, somebody appearing from embryo is also extraordinary. But we take it for granted because we know that happens. Embryo means Jarayuja. So according to our Vedic literature, it's a Jarayuja from the embryos. All the human beings, animals, they are born from embryo. Second way that all living entities can be born is through Andaja, egg. So reptiles, fishes, they are all born from eggs. The third way that the living entities can be born is Udbija. Udbija is seeds. The trees, the plants, everything is appearing or being born from seeds. Is that not extraordinary? Living entities coming from seeds, living entities coming from egg, living entities coming from embryo. And also there is also one other way. Living entities, Svedaja. Ja means appear, born, like Janma Karma, Svedaja. Svedaja means appearing from water. An example is Srila Prabhupada explains to us again and again that bed bugs appear from perspiration. So these are the only 4 categories that all the 8.4 living entities appear, either through embryo, either through egg, either through seeds, either through water. So these are already extraordinary ways. Why can't there be living entities appearing in different ways that we just heard from the third canto? So when we try to expand our vision, then we will be able to comprehend this much better and have faith in the Vedic literature. Now, some of you may have had or may have heard this wonderful story that was narrated by Srila Prabhupada on faith. I would like to narrate this story with your permission. Once Narada Muni was walking along and then he met a Brahmin. And this Brahmin said, "My dear Narada Muni, where are you going?" And Narada Muni said, "I'm going to go to Vaikuntha to meet Lord Narayan." And this Brahmin, who was very proud, said, "I know at the end of this life I'm going back to Vaikuntha. But anyway, Narada Muni, when you go to meet Lord Narayan, please ask him, when am I coming to Vaikuntha?" So Narada Muni said, "Sure, I'm going to ask Lord Narayan, when you're going to come to Vaikuntha permanently." And then he's walking along and then he sees this cobbler beneath the tree. And then this cobbler pays obeisances and he asked Narada Muni, "My dear Narada Muni, where are you going?" And Narada Muni said, "Vaikuntha." And then this cobbler is asking, "Can you do me a favor? Can you please ask Lord Narayan when I'm going to come back to Vaikuntha?" Narada Muni says, "Sure, I will ask Lord Narayan." And he goes, and then Lord Narayan is there. Narada Muni offers obeisances, and he asks Lord Narayan, "I met this Brahmin and I met this cobbler. Both of them are very interested in knowing when they are going to come to the spiritual world." And then Lord Narayan says, "Please tell the Brahmin, it's going to take millions of years before he comes to Vaikuntha. And tell this cobbler that at the very end of this life, he's going to come to Vaikuntha." Now Narada Muni is perplexed. What? I can't believe this. I saw this Brahmin, he's doing all this Vedic rites and he's chanting and he's doing all these pujas and all these things. But how come you're saying that it will take millions of years? And then Lord Narayan saw that quizzical look in Narada Muni's face and he says, "You will understand this better. When you go back to them, tell them, when they ask what I was doing, tell them that I was threading an elephant through the eye of the needle." Now have you seen, all of you would have seen a needle, and the eye of the needle is very small hole. It's almost difficult even for us to put a thread through that. And Lord Narayan said to Narada Muni to tell them that he was threading an elephant. How big is this elephant? How can it go through the small hole? You tell them and you'll know why it will take millions of years for this Brahmin to come to me. So Narada Muni goes and this Brahmin asks him, "Did you go to Vaikuntha?" And then Narada Muni says, "Yes." And then he does not even believe that he actually went to Vaikuntha. Then he says, "Okay, now tell me what Lord Narayan was doing there." And he says, "Lord Narayan was was actually threading the elephant through the eye of this needle." And then this Brahmin says, "I don't even believe you. First of all, I don't believe you that you went there. Second of all, how can an elephant be put through this small hole in this needle? I don't believe you." Then Narada Muni understood this is the reason. He's got no faith. This is the reason why he's not going to go right away and it will take millions of years. Then he goes to this cobbler. And the cobbler asks, "My dear Narada, did you go to Vaikuntha?" And what did Lord Narayan say? He says, "Lord Narayan said that you'll be coming at the end of this life itself." And then he was shedding tears. And then he asked what Lord Narayan was doing there. And he said, "Yeah, he was threading the elephant through the eye of the needle." He started shedding more tears in ecstasy. And then Narada Muni asked him, "Why are you crying? Do you really believe that Lord Narayan can put this elephant through the small hole in the needle?" He said, "Absolutely he can do that. He had utmost faith." And he said, "My dear Narada, can you see where I am sitting down? I am sitting down beneath the banyan tree. How big is this banyan tree?" And he said, "If Lord Narayan can put this whole banyan tree in the small seed, why can't he put this elephant through this eye of the needle?" So if you can see that the seed of banyan tree is so small, so the whole tree is contained within the seed. Actually, not even the whole tree. The whole forest of banyan trees is contained in that, because many of the banyan trees can appear from this seed. So he said, "I absolutely believe that." So he was not educated, and the verse that we are reading is, "Ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness and they fall down. For the doubting soul," so this Brahmin was a doubting soul, "there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next." Now this cobbler was ignorant. He did not have knowledge, but he had so much of faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that is at the end of this life itself, back home, back to Godhead. Now this banyan tree, some of you may have seen. We just heard about sequoia tree. Now the sequoia tree is we heard mainly in California, and some of them are in Vancouver. This tree can grow up to 380 feet. Now 380 feet is 1/4 the size of CN Tower. And at the base of this tree, just above the ground, it's 23 feet wide. The tree is 23 feet wide at the base, from here to probably wider than that. 23 feet, just imagine. Now, and the roots of this tree can go up to 4 acres. And how big is the seed? The seed of the sequoia tree that can grow up to 380 feet, in a 2-inch cone, there are 200 seeds of the sequoia tree. So the seed of the sequoia tree is probably this big in size, but the size of the sequoia tree is 380 feet tall. So the Lord has put this 380 feet tree in this small seed. That is the understanding of this toddler, and he had utmost faith, and he's going back home, back to God at the end of this very life itself. Now, we may have faith. Every time we may have a lot of faith in material things. When we go to a barber, the barber has got the sharp scissors so close to our neck, so close to our eyes. But we have so much of faith and confidence that he's not going to, put that scissor in our eyes. Or when we go to a restaurant, we have so much of confidence that there is no poison or anything in the food. We don't know the cook. We don't know who's cooking because we don't even see that person. But we have so much of inbuilt faith and confidence in that person. Same thing when we go take a flight to go to Vrindavan Dham. We are so confident, so sure that the pilot will take us safely. We don't know whether he's got license. We don't know whether the air traffic controllers are all qualified, whether they're not sleeping, whether they're doing the job. So we put so much of faith on some people who we don't even know, but we are reluctant to put faith on the scriptures from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we are driving in the car, we are so much confident that the person coming in the opposite side is not going to hit us. There's time for one more joke. So there is an old couple, and the Mataji is hearing the 680 news, and in the 680 news it is said, oh, there is one person going in the opposite direction in 401. So immediately the Mataji is calling Prabhu in the cell phone. Prabhu, be careful, you are also on 401. The 680 news says there's one person going in the opposite direction. So this Prabhuji looks around and he says, you're right, but the only thing is it's not one person. Hundreds of people are going in the opposite direction. So he's the person who's going in the opposite direction. And as usual, we always try to blame others or think others are at fault. So we have inbuilt confidence in all material things, but when it comes to spiritual, confirmation, we are always reluctant to really understand, is it true, can I comprehend this? So today, hopefully, with some of these examples, we are broadening our vision and we are able to comprehend this a little bit better. And also, we should have faith in the Lord, even though things don't go our way. So there was a story here, a ship got shipwrecked, and there was only one survivor. There's only one person who survived in this shipwreck, and he was put into one island. So he's the only person living in that island, and with some driftwood. Driftwood means all the wood that comes with the water. So he takes that driftwood, and in due course of time, he builds a small hut for him to take rest in the daytime or in the night. So he does that, and one day he's going in search of food because there's no food in that island. So he's going so far away, and when he comes in, he sees his hut is actually burning. It's gone to flames, so much of fire, and it's gone. So all the hard work that he put into is gone, and he started getting so angry. God, how can you do this to me? I had nothing. With the driftwood for so many days I collected and I built this hut, and now it's gone in flame. Why did you do this? And so angry, he went to sleep. Next day morning, he was awakened by the sound of a ship that is standing in front of him. They came to rescue him, and he asked, how did you know that I was here? You sent the smoke signal, and we saw the smoke signal, and we came. So when one door closes, another door automatically opens. So we have to have that faith in the Lord. And also this story of this small boy who was looking at his garden. He was in this garden, and he saw a caterpillar really struggling to extricate itself from this cocoon. So this cocoon, as you know, butterfly is a caterpillar before, and he has to struggle to come out of this cocoon. He's struggling. This boy had so much of compassion. So he ran to his house, took a scissor, and started cutting this cocoon. and this caterpillar fell down with very, very weak wings. So he thought he's actually saving this caterpillar, but actually this caterpillar, if the caterpillar had struggled a little bit more, he would have grown this beautiful wings and soared in the sky, and all of us would have enjoyed this beautiful multicolored wings as the butterfly goes from one flower to another flower. But so we have to struggle. So when we struggle in our life, it is good for us. So even when things apparently don't go the way that we want, still we should have faith, because Supreme Personality of Godhead is Aham Bija Pratapita. I am the Supreme Father of all living entities. So we have to have faith in Lord Krishna as the Supreme Father. He will take care of all our needs, what we need. Not all our wants, but all our needs will be taken care of. Do we have time for one more story?
Yes,
so we quickly go through one more story about faith. Again, faith. Once Haridas Thakur is Namacharya. He chants 174 rounds a day, which equals to 300,000 names per day. And he was talking to a Brahmin. And this Brahmin was a caste Brahmin. He was so proud that he's Brahmin. And he believed that he believed in caste system, and anybody other than his Brahmin should not chant this holy name. And here Haridas Thakur is saying, if you chant the holy names of the Lord loudly, it gives you 100 times more effect, because not only the chanter benefits by this loud chanting, but everyone else benefits by this. There may be a mosquito flying, a bird flying, there is a tree or a shrub nearby. All of them will benefit because of chanting, and they go back to God just by hearing the holy name. So loud chanting is 100 times more beneficial than silent chanting or chanting in the mind or murmuring. So this Brahmin was so angry, and he said, I don't believe you at all. You are not qualified to explain all this to us. Then Haridas Thakur quotes a wonderful verse that was said by a Gandharva named Sudarsana. Does this name ring a bell? When you read the 34th chapter of the 10th canto, this wonderful pastime is there. In a nutshell, Nanda Maharaj with all the cowherd men and Lord Krishna are going to offer obeisances to Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yathasambu. So Lord Krishna is going with Nanda Maharaj and other cowherd men to Ambikavana, which is in Mathura, the banks of river Saraswati. They offer their worship and they stay the night there. And when they are staying in the night, a big serpent came and caught hold of Nanda Maharaj. And Nanda Maharaj is crying, Lord Krishna, please save me, Krishna, please save me. Like all of us have to do when we are in trouble. Who else can take care? And all the cowherd men take blazing stick and they are beating this serpent. And the serpent's body is getting to be on fire, but still he's not letting go of Nanda Maharaj. And Lord Krishna comes there. He's still a boy at that time. And he comes, places his left foot on the serpent, and immediately the serpent leaves the serpent body and assumes this beautiful effulgent Gandharva body and offers obeisances to Lord Krishna. And he says, I did not give respect. I was ridiculing some of the sages, and because of that I was cursed to become a snake, and now that curse is a blessing, because now I got liberation by you placing your lotus feet. And this serpent, Sudarshana says, anybody who chants your names loudly will benefit, but also anybody who's hearing will also benefit. So this is the verse that Haridas Thakur is quoting to this caste Brahmin. And this Brahmin was so angry, and he said, if you are not able to prove the statement, so he does not believe in the scriptures. So what does Lord Krishna say? If you don't believe in the scriptures, there's no happiness in this world nor in the next. And he says, I'm going to cut off your nose. This Brahmin is challenging Haridas Thakur, who's Namacharya. I'm going to cut off your nose if this is not true. And he goes to his house. In few days' time, this Brahmin's nose fell off, melted and fell off. This is from Chaitanya Bhagavat. This pastime is from Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur. His nose melted and fell off because of smallpox. So the punishment that he wanted to give to Haridas Thakur, Lord Krishna gave it to this person who did not have faith in the literature. So the verse that we are reading again is the foundation of our spiritual progress. If we do not have faith in Lord Krishna, in the Vedic literatures, then there is no happiness for us in this life nor in the next life, and we do not attain God consciousness and we fall down. As well as we heard from the 26th chapter of the 5th canto, when we are performing various atheistic activities because of no faith in the Lord and no faith in the scriptures, at least 28 hellish planets are waiting to award various punishments for all of us. So this is a very strong verse in Bhagavad Gita where Lord Krishna says you have to have faith in the Vedic literatures. Srila Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna. We have a few more minutes. We can, if you have any questions, and then we can chant for a few minutes.
Question.
Yes.
I want some detail. A crocodile and elephant fighting for 1,000 years. So how they eat? How is that? Which planet happened?
So Prabhu's question, for the benefit of those who are sitting in the back, is asking. Prabhu asked, there was a fight between a crocodile and an elephant that we read from Srimad Bhagavatam. When did this happen? Which planet did this happen?
How is happened? They need to eat.
Any?
The elephant had to eat. How is fighting for 1,000 years?
Okay, so it's a good question. So elephant normally lives for 60-70 years. How come the elephant fought for 1,000 years? So that's the question. So this is from the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is King Gajendra's pastime that Prabhu is referring to. King Gajendra was an elephant, and this is in the Trikuta mountain. Trikuta mountain is in the higher planetary system near the shores of the ocean of milk. So it is not on Earth, it is in the higher planetary system. And in the higher planetary system, they live for more number of years. As we go up, the duration of life increases. That's why Lord Brahma, who's in Satyaloka, who's the highest planet of the material universe, lives for 311 trillion and 40 billion years. So we have Bhuloka, Borloka, Swargaloka, Janaloka, Mahaloka, Tapaloka and Satyaloka. And this is in the higher planet in the Bhuloka itself, which is the Trikuta mountain. So in this Trikuta mountain, it's a long pastime, but again the summary, so King Gajendra was King Indradumna in the previous life, and he was cursed to become an elephant because Agastya Muni was there and he did not offer respects. Become an elephant. And this crocodile was King Uhu in the previous life, and Devada Rishi was there and he was taking bath, and he goes underneath and captures his leg, and he says, because you caught my leg like a crocodile, you will be cursed to become a crocodile. So one is a crocodile, one is an elephant, but because the destinies are put together, the crocodile catches the leg of the elephant, and there was fierce fighting for 1,000 years. And in the duration of this 1,000 years, all the friends and relatives are trying to save King Gajendra. All the baby elephants, wives, they are all trying to pull the elephant away from this crocodile's grip, but they are unable to do. And finally, King Gajendra realized he had faith. He had faith in the holy names of the Lord, in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he remembered his past. In the 15th verse of the 15th chapter, Sarvasya Chaham Hridisannivishto Matya Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So Lord Krishna says, from me comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. So Krishna gave him the remembrance of all the verses that he chanted in the previous life, and he started chanting all these verses with faith, and immediately Lord Vishnu came on Garuda and he severed the mouth of the crocodile, who immediately became this Gandharva Uhu again. And then King Gajendra got this Sarupya Mukti, he got the same form of the Lord, and the Lord took him along with him. So again, this is a pastime of faith. When we have faith, how we can get out of the dangers that we may have. Does that answer your question, or any other question that you have?
Yeah, same question. Without eating, how they fight in long time period?
Without eating, how they are fighting. So it does not say that they were not eating. The elephant can survive with whatever he had. So again, we are thinking in terms of, again, we have some doubt as far as so the whole verse that we are talking about is doubt. So these are revealed scriptures. So the doubt that we may have about eating, again, we are thinking in terms of our vision. But think in terms of higher planets. They don't have to eat. So we hear from Vashishta Muni, when he meditates, they are meditating, and even Dhruva Maharaj, when he was in the forest, he was just surviving on air. So how does he survive? So we cannot again think in terms of what we know or what we are capable of, and we know about this pastime of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma went to see Lord Krishna, and then the doorkeeper was asked by Lord Krishna to ask which Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma said, what? There's only one Brahma. How can Lord Krishna ask which Lord Brahma? And then when Lord Brahma goes to Lord Krishna summons all the Brahmas from all the various planets. Our Brahma is the smallest Brahma, in the sense he had only 4 heads. And there were Brahmas that had 8 heads, 16 heads, millions of it, trillions of it. Now again, from our vision, we can't think, how can somebody walk around with 1,000 heads and how can he go through a door? The heads will hit. So from our perspective, we cannot think in terms of how an elephant can survive for 1,000 years without eating. Again, these are all, the main message that we get from the Vedic literature is not comprehension, but it's submission and transformation. So comprehension we may not be able to comprehend because many of these are happening in the other realms of reality, in the higher planetary system. But what we hear is for us to be in the submissive mood that we are insignificant, and the transformation is that we are insignificant and we serve the Lord in this humble state of mind because we are nobody compared to all these great Vaishnavas and great personalities, great devotees of the Lord that we hear from these Vedic literatures. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? If not, yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Quickly we'll go through this one question. We may have to chant for a few minutes as well.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I just want to ask about the astrology.
Yeah.
Like in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is said that what we get is according to our karma. But lot of psychic people and lot of astrology, they say that if there is any difficulty, do this remedy, do that remedy. What is that about? Like,
so Prabhupada has explained this many times. Is in simple terms, astrologers are like forecasters, weather forecasters. They can, if they're really good, they can tell you that the snowfall will start at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. There will be this hurricane coming at 3 p.m. But they cannot change anything. They cannot stop this hurricane from coming. They cannot do anything. All they can do is run away from there. So this puja and things like that does not work. Srila Prabhupada said, but Lord Krishna will change our destiny. So when we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when we are doing the Kirtan, why do we clap? When we clap, in Garuda Puran it is said, when we clap, all the sins that we have committed in all our previous lives, they are like birds sitting in the tree. When you clap, what happens? All the birds fly off from the tree. Similarly, one person had this, all this, he showed to an astrologer, and then he came to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said, he came to the temple and he participated in this kirtan and bhajan, and according to his thing, he was supposed to have bad time, and then he came to the temple, kept on clapping the hands, participating in the devotional service, and after a few years he went back to the same person and he showed them, this is not your hand. So Krishna changes everything for our benefit. So in a nutshell, we come to the temple, perform devotional service, everything good will happen to us. Again, we should have that faith. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in humble state of mind for about 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
So a couple of minutes we can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So again, let's go through this transformation. Let's not worry about anybody sitting by the side of us, what somebody is going to think or look at us. All are devotees in the same frame of mind. So let's close our mind. From the bottom of our heart, let's chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is we are pleading the Lord to engage us in Lord's devotional service, and everything else will happen based on what we need. Krishna will take care of us. Again, for the satisfaction of the Lord, let's chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for at least 2 minutes from the bottom of our heart. Close our eyes together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Three more times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Louder please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Big round of applause for everyone. As I said previously, always inspiring and eager to share his wisdom and knowledge. I'm so glad to have you here, Prabhuji. It was excellent. Okay, so continuing with the program today, we would like to remind everyone that ISKCON Brampton is a nursery environment.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Then I see English.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. For prasadam, please make the line on the right side. We go and we come out that way. And senior and people who are here for the first time, please have a seat at the table. You will be served at the table. You